So let's set the stage here though for the Rams, because it's like you're down 10, you're driving,
seconds.
You spike the ball, right? There's 4 seconds left.
There's legitimately no chance. Like when you think about how much time, like at least a second has to come off the clock.
No, on a field goal, it's like 3 to 4 seconds comes off the clock, right?
Yeah.
So there's 4 seconds left. They kick the field goal and cover a 7.5 to 8 point spread, depending on when you placed your bets, kids.
The ref was like rushing up, like trying to get the, like, here, take the ball.
Can I say that being a Niners fan, but being on the Rams plus 8 points, I had like the shit eating grin on my face.
Yeah,
It's just kind of like, you know what? This is, this
best
is
of both worlds.
Well, you got to take that when you can, because you know that the backdoor cover is going to go against you in an evil way, just to, make it all even out, right? That's how things all even out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 2-0 club, everyone's squad's 2-0. That's kind of weird. How are we feeling? How confident with our 2-0 squads individually are we feeling right now?
Not.
Yeah.
Explain.
So I'm a Saints fan, and I don't know. Like, the defense is sick. The Derek Carr experience hasn't been super enjoyable. I was texting Tones last night through the game. Like, I do think that I'm holding a bit of, like, I'm reserving some judgment on the offense until Kamara comes back, just because, like, they were down to one running back, and, they, like, run a lot of screens, and Tony Jones probably isn't that guy. But, hey, you take the dubs. I like Carr, the red zone, the Carr being terrible in the red zone thing seems for real. Yeah. I'm assuming that once they get inside the 20, just give it to Taysom Hill the whole time. QB power, let's go. Throwing some jump throws, why not?
Yeah. It's week 2 and we don't have a Jimmy Graham touchdown yet, and I'm upset about that.
Are you shocked though? Like,
no,
you
but
don't
like,
have a Jimmy Graham
you suck
touchdown?
in the red zone.
It's 2023, Tones.
Yeah,
I'm not that surprised that Jimmy Graham doesn't have a touchdown right now.
But it's weird. They're like using him to block and stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, you brought this man in for 5 yards and you suck in the red zone. Just throw your big guys out there and just lob one up and let's see what he can do.
Early season decoy, man. You can't give out the whole playbook this early. Got to save some stuff.
Galaxy brain. The nice thing about the Saints is that I think, unlike the Eagles or the Niners, the other 2-0 teams that we're talking about, is I think that the Saints have a really favorable schedule.
Oh yeah,
the rest of the way. Like for how I know it's not been like fucking bright lights out there with the Saints offense quite yet, but like you say, tread water until you get Kamara back. That'll give another look to the offense. But I mean, looking down the line, you got a tough one, I guess, against, I don't know, the Jags or the Lions, but those are both in the dome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys
next week, actually, in Green Bay, I think is like going to be one of their tougher tests, which is not like, that's just to say how easy their schedule is. Like, it's just kind of like, holy shit. Like, this is the one, like, you could see them losing this game, no problem. But
I'd more rather go to Green Bay in September than I would in December or January,
I will say that out of nowhere, it's a absolute juggernaut of a division with 3 2-0 teams.
Best
NXT
division
South.
of football, man.
Yeah, you kidding me? Jeez.
And you know what? Like, you laugh, but like, they are 3. That's 3 tough outs. Like, say what you will about Baker, but like, the Bucs defense has always been pretty good the last couple of years, and they basically returned everybody. Yeah. Atlanta has the fucking weirdest looking coach in the NFL, a guy who I just love looking at. Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa.
Hey-o.
What does Cam say on the show? What does Cam and May say on the show? Hold up.
It's a big pause.
Big pause. That's a crazy looking team, that Falcons team, and they seem to be tough, as weird as they are. So this is a good division, and that is, I guess, one part about the schedule is that y'all are going to cannibalize each other in some way. Like, you're probably not going to go 6-0 against the division.
Yeah, but I mean,
maybe. We're talking about Derek Carr here.
Yeah, we're still talking about Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield. Like, come on, man.
Desmond Ritter. Look at those quarterbacks.
It's a murderer's row right there.
I feel like this happens every year where like these bad teams, they kind of come out early and they look not as horrible as we maybe think we are, as we maybe think they are. And then like October hits and then reality sets in. It's fine to do this in the first few weeks. Baker is playing better than we all thought he would, but then the injuries start piling up. Teams start figuring out what you're doing. Coaches get kind of exposed a little bit. Like it's still Todd Bowles, like over there in Tampa. Like it's still like let's slow down, you know.
Yeah.
And like it is still Derek Carr. And come, you know, time where you're playing outdoors later in the season, let's slow down, you know. But I think it's interesting. Like the Rams, like, are they just going to play this hard for 18 games or 17 games?
Team.
Like, no, like they're just not.
Team.
It's not going to happen.
You know what?
No, I know. Listen,
well
give them credit. Very well coached. And McVay's like on track to winning like coach of the year if they keep this up. Massive if. Massive.
Which they won't.
Yeah, there's just no way. Like,
So
they're catching teams off guard right now, and that's great. But eventually, that's not going to happen.
yeah,
But,
there's a
like,
lot
you
of
guys
2-0
can-
teams in the league right now, right? Like, I mean, it's so early. There's still so many teams, like even the NFC East, you had 3 2-0 teams there. Washington, who not a lot of people thought would be really good, they're 2-0. Like, is that going to last? No. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I think like things get interesting because it's so early. You're going to have those teams that I like to bet on that are like the good, bad teams, to quote Bill Simmons, where it's like, they're the pesky teams that you can bet on that will cover spreads for you down the line. And that's where it's interesting to see you pick out those teams now. Who can I trust? And watching that game, because I want to ask you guys too, last night, 2 Monday night games, 2 of them. Did we like that on a Monday night?
Hate it.
No.
I'm totally fine with
I got kids.
Yeah, I'm in on it. Why not? Wait, you got kids?
The dads are like, fuck that.
I'm only recording one. I just recorded Steelers. I watched maybe, a quarter of the Saints, because you got to understand I'm 2 hours before. So the 7 o'clock game is really a 5 o'clock game.
Do you never watch Monday night games live normally?
Night games I tape.
Oh, interesting.
Hold on.
Being behind, doesn't that give you more time?
Yeah, I'm confused by that.
What do you mean?
Like
No, because bedtime we're talking bedtime. Like we're hitting the bath at like 6:15.
I got you.
No, I get that, but I'm saying after that happens, like what time does a game end your time?
Usually like 9:30.
That's what I'm saying. Brooksy.
But that's
Doesn't that
why
give
I
you more
catch up.
time to be up.
Well, that's why I catch up. But then,
okay.
To be up, like Tones. What time does the boy wake? Like
I mean, there's no routine, so I couldn't even tell. Like, there's just right now, it's just survival. And he's sleeping. Great, let's try to do one thing that takes 5 minutes until he wakes up again.
I didn't mind the 2 games. I think they got to sort out the timing of it because it almost is set up to time out. That one game goes to halftime while the other game's on, then the other game ends. But there's massive delays in the the Browns game with the injury, and then there was mad reviews going on. So that game went a little later. So that kind of threw things off. But I didn't really mind the 2 Monday night games. You just hope that they were better games.
Yeah, they were terrible. It was some of the worst quarterbacking we could imagine, just across the board. It was remarkable. But one of the things that I don't understand about this whole 2 games on is too many games. Like every Sunday there are way more than 2 games on at a time.
There's not red zone.
And we managed to do that.
No red zone. That's it. There's no red zone.
Seriously, we've got 900 feeds for every game now. You can't give me one feed that bounces back between the 2 of them.
Well, they kept going to the 2 box a lot. I felt like I saw that a lot.
And they,
I kind of hated that as a Saints fan. That annoyed the shit out of me.
You're getting relegated to the small box for sure.
Well, it wasn't even that. I'm just like, it's like a key 3rd down, and I'm like squinting. I'm like, who's on the field? Like, well, is that Foster Moreau? Like, what are we doing here? Like, okay, it's just like when it's my team playing, I don't like it. When it's somebody else's teams, that's fine. There's
still too much time though to watch Bryce Young, who, I mean, my guy's lining up under the wrong lineman. Like, my guy's in trouble.
It's funny,
the Panthers
too.
are in trouble.
I mean, and then you look at the other quarterbacks that were taken after Bryce Young. They seem like, I know Richardson's hurt, but when he's playing, he looks like the dude.
But he's not going to be playing long, bro.
I've been really impressed. Well, that's why I've been really impressed with CJ Stroud.
Same.
Like, that's a guy who's going to stick around. Well, listen, I might be really wrong, but through his first 2 games and the way that he plays, as opposed to Richardson. Looks like he could have a longer NFL career if he keeps up the progression of what we've seen early. He looks good, man. I think CJ Stroud is a little bit of a throwback to a guy who doesn't have that second dimension, but is not afraid to throw the football.
And their whole O-line was like dead on Sunday. Like I think they were missing 4 of their 5 starters or something like that. Like it's pretty impressive.
Now the only thing is they don't have their first round pick, right? Arizona has their pick.
Oh, they traded up, didn't they?
To get Will.
Oof.
I don't even remember.
To get Will Anderson and CJ
one
Stroud.
of the trades, right?
So I don't know if they have their first round pick. So I know they're not
try to be good.
Yeah, I guess they got to put it out there.
So we know Webby's Eagles are good. We know the Niners are good.
They look good.
My guy,
you guys look good too.
Brock Purdy, I keep saying, man, my guy just got to take care and share the rock. Everything will be good on offense. Shouts to Brock Purdy. But flipping it over here to 0-2 teams. You got the Broncos, Vikings, Chargers, Bengals, Bears, Patriots. Of those 6 teams, do you have faith in any of them? Who do you have the most faith in to turn it around here?
It's got to be the Bengals, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be. Like the answer is like but the thing is they did this last year, was it? I remember they started
last year.
And it's like, can you do that twice? And I know there's the extra playoff spot that helps, but like talent-wise, the answer is probably the Chargers, but holy shit, that coaching situation is just a debacle.
He's gonna.
And you can't trust them at all. Like, are we really get like trusting them to win like 6 straight games at some point this year? So for me, the answer is the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm so tired of hearing people say the Chargers are good. I have no reason to believe that they're good. I have like the one time I saw them in the playoffs, it was the worst loss, blown lead I've ever seen. They never have a comeback win. They only lose when they're ahead in games. I'm so tired of like, oh, but they have all these weapons and playmakers on. Like, they don't win. They lose games all the time.
It's true. It's
true.
Like
they're coach Sixers of the NFL.
Everything's got to always come back to Philly.
They got
to come back to Philly.
Oh, they're so disappointing, man.
The thing that's funny is Brandon Staley. Remember how calm and cool he was in prior years in his post games? He's just like, he's trying to like educate and school the media on like the math and like the football nerddom of like all the shit that he was doing. And then all of a sudden after this last game, he's like, this has nothing to do with the Jags game last year. Right? It's like fired up. It's like, who is this guy?
That's a man about to lose his job.
Yeah.
Is it sad watching the Patriots just be trash, or do we think that, we relied so many years on even post Brady where it's like, oh, well, Belichick can figure some stuff out and their defense will be good. And, are we past that point now? Do we just accept that the Patriots suck?
Is it time to take the dog behind the shed?
Wow.
Whoa. No. Belichick leaves when Belichick wants to leave. Okay. Belichick.
Yeah, I just think that Mac Jones stinks.
Agreed.
I just think he's so bad.
Also, like the Pats' arrogance to just like, it's like they try to like not have explosive players on offense.
Yeah.
Like they go out of their way to be like, hey, you ran a 4.8, lock it in. Here's a 3-year deal. Yeah. Like I just don't understand.
You didn't play a down of football in university, but you played lacrosse?
You played Rutgers lacrosse?
Guess what? You're a new starting wide receiver.
It's crazy. Who's that guy? Who's that guy that blew on the Steelers in the Steelers game last night? Who was the guy that blew that kickoff and he like toe tapped it?
Oh yeah,
it was like Gunnar Slavinsky or something. I'm like, there's no way that guy wasn't a Patriot at some point in his life.
He definitely
was. He really?
Yeah,
come on.
Gunnar was
absolutely was.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. I actually had no idea that was the case. I'm like looking at this name, like that's a Patriot, like no question. That
was so like funny. I was watching the Sunday Nighter and that Van Ginkel guy who looked like Greg Hood. I was like, how is this guy's gonna be a Patriot? And then the guy blocked the kick, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's on the Patriots. If you're that guy, yeah, for sure. They'll find a place for you.
I just don't get a good, like, there's a million good receivers every year in the draft. Puka Nacua is going in the 5th round, and the Pats are just like, we're good, thanks. We'll just take, who's the Niners' 4th string receiver? Yeah, Kendrick Bourne, sign me up. All right, let's go. Very
Kendrick
strange.
Bourne, man, was good on 3rd downs, man.
Hey.
Cool. Great.
I think he's the Pats' leading receiver.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, their offense sucks. It's so funny watching certain teams because, like, their offense sucks. You watch, like, the Steelers game last night, and it's like they just had a decent, like, mediocre offense. They blow out that game last night. They give the Niners a go in week 1, but their offense and play calling, like, I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying this to be like arrogant about the Niners, because I don't think they're like, yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. It's not that. But I will say, when you watch poorly coached offensive teams, it's just like, oh yeah, I can't really take this shit for granted. When like Brock Purdy's okay, but he's not that good. But dudes are wide open all the time, right? Christian McCaffrey, their running game is legit. So when you're watching these teams, it's like you can't even get like 5 yards on a first down ever. Like ever. It's just like, man, like that sucks.
I'll tell you what's
really
tough
sucks.
is having a guy like that who creates super creative plays, and you see your offense using those to great success, and then he leaves and goes to another team. And so I'm watching Colts clips because the Eagles offensive coordinator is now the head coach of the Colts, and the Colts are running some really cool plays, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of motion going on. And then I'm watching, we got a new offensive coordinator who's first time, he's getting his feet under him. Hopefully he'll start to turn around. But now I'm looking at our play calling with the Eagles, and it's leaving me wanting. You know, we have these amazing weapons, and it just seems like we're not using them.
Okay.
But at least we're not the Bears.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Every single clip that comes out on Twitter or on X is just wild, of like quarterback coaches dissecting whatever the hell is going on in Chicago. It's just an absolute mess.
They have a guy who does something really well, and they refuse to do that with the athlete.
Because you can't do that long term, man. You just can't. Like, you're gonna die, right? Like, you can't run the ball over and over again with your quarterback. You just can't. It's not sustainable for a whole season.
Run it more than 3 times a game. Run it more than 3 times a game. You can find a balance, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough though. If he can't figure it out in the pocket, then you can't play quarterback in the NFL. You just can't, right? And like, he can't make reads well. He's like, and you got to remember, right? Some of these guys too that had major success in college, but you're at a big time program. Like, it's easy to throw to wide open, Alabama receivers or Ohio State receivers. Like, that's easy to do. Now you're in the NFL. The windows are so much smaller. You have so much less time. You got to study and know your playbook, like know where your reads are. I don't know if Fields is that dude. Right? Like, my guy just looks shaky in the pocket all the time. And it's not like he's the only quarterback that's like that. But when there's so much hype, like people were talking about, MVP pick, right? To start the season. Like, people were like, long shot MVP, Justin Fields. And it's like, yeah, about that. I don't know. It's tough, but it's the Bears. Like, the Bears have been trash for the majority of my life. You know what I mean? I mean, other than my early life, I'm old. So like, they were still good in the late 80s, but
had a little run in the
they had that one Super Bowl. They beat the Saints and
Rex Grossman. Was that Rex Grossman, right?
Grossman was a QB. Sexy Rexy losing to the Colts in the Super Bowl.
Yes,
Devin Hester, right?
Devin Hester.
Yeah, that was the Hester. That was the Hester return, the first play. Yep, I remember that.
I miss those dudes in the NFL. Those like
electric kick returners.
Yeah,
Dante Hall throwing up the X.
Yes,
come on,
what a time!
Those guys are the best.
The playmakers, or dare I say, prime time? Is that a segue into like playmakers here? Because like,
look at Webby.
What a game!
Webby is fully erect.
Before we get to just the actual game, I want to paint the scene, because like, the scene of everything that is happening around Deion in Colorado. Can this get any bigger? Like, you got Lil Wayne leading them out. You got The Rock, who's kind of giving speeches, but is also just kind of there while Deion's mom is giving speeches to the team. Like, it's insane. Offset's there on the sidelines. You got Mark Jones
Master
calling
P
it.
Was there.
Master
Former
P.
Toronto Raptor.
I haven't seen Master P in like a decade.
I know. He should have shown up in the gold tank.
Do you guys, when you talk to grown adults, do you take off your hat and your sunglasses?
I try to.
Could I just
Timmy,
say,
what banquet hall are you in right now?
Yeah. When does the bat mitzvah start?
I'm in the games room.
Shit.
Hey.
Playing some jits later? Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Anyway,
No, like, if anybody appreciates a giant college football story that sweeps the nation, like this Coach Prime Colorado thing, it's Timmy Hags. Timmy
Oh.
Hags loves this kind of like giant spectacle. It's awesome. So
It
are
is.
you guys believing now?
It's the
No.
only way I'll watch college football.
There
Is
we go.
big,
Exactly it.
give me a big heel that will
Yeah.
wear his sunglasses and his hat and talk to every grown adult and keep it all on because it's not an issue. I don't know why it's an issue.
So here's
Full
the question:
coverage.
how tempted are you guys to buy some of those glasses?
Oh, very
they're
tempting.
they're moving units now.
Very tempting.
Yeah, me too.
Dion's a businessman.
Yes,
100%.
yes.
We're seeing it. And
My-
and you know what? A good businessman. He's not just a businessman. He's a good businessman.
Yep.
My
Imagine if this was all
conspiracy
3D
is that it's all
chess.
set up. I think it's all set up.
This is what I was
Wow.
gonna say. Imagine if it was
script.
3D chess and the Colorado State coach was in on it, and Dion's
No.
just giving him a cut of the sunglasses sales.
He fed
Imagine
him
that.
the line. He fed him the line to stay, and he's like, "All right, buy stock in the sunglasses. You just say this.
I
Biggest
love
game in
this.
Will be millions.
It's great."
Wasn't he
So-
like talking nice things about that guy after the game too? Like,
I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
yeah, I thought he was saying
was.
like, yeah, I remember the quotes being like very G-rated, and I was like,
Well, the
dude,
other
I'm
thing is-
disappointed.
It was
big
funny.
fight or every big boxing fight where there's like a massive beef, and then at the end of the fight they're like hugging and then
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is here, the Colorado State coach is no dummy. Okay? He's not a dummy. He knew what he was saying, and he knew the reaction it was going to get 100%. You got to figure he's got a program to run as well, just
Mhm.
like Dion does. So why not put your school's name out there? And they did an amazing, they almost pulled the upset. They played
Almost
great.
beat him.
Those two wide receivers that Colorado State have are like having two Puka Nakuas out there. They were incredible. So I think that, I think the Colorado State, I don't know if he got any cash under the table, but I think it was a smart move by him.
I mean, the interesting part about the Colorado State coach, because you're so right, Webby, about the fact that he knew what he was doing. Because if you pay attention to the actual clip that went viral, he says at the beginning of it, I said it earlier today on ESPN and I'll say it again. Right? So he
In
was
case you
trying,
didn't get the talking points.
right? He was trying to get that going. When I speak to adults, I take my hat off. Like he knew what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
He had the time.
What about your
Well,
man?
one more question about Dion.
We're still talking about Dion.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I want an over under 2.5 years before Deion Sanders is coaching in the NFL.
So did you see
No.
his quote? They
No,
asked him
no,
about this,
no.
right? He said like, "Oh, I love it here in Boulder." He's getting out ahead of it for sure, trying to say that he's going to stick around. But I don't know, man.
There's
It's
no
Colorado.
way he's staying. Yeah, he'll be coaching Florida State or
Yeah.
No,
somewhere
his cachet is
bigger.
in college for sure.
I think, yeah,
But he's
I think
leaving
his shtick is college.
Isn't the
for
goal
sure.
though to get to the NFL? I mean, Harbaugh did it.
his goal is to get to the money. And
Yeah.
I know the NFL
That might be
might
right.
be the bigger money, but now with NIL, now with him having like Nick Saban could coach in the NFL if he wanted to.
no. Hold on. You're telling me if Jerry Jones picks up the phone after this year and
You
says,
don't- hold on.
Prime, I want you
Prime.
to come back to Dallas and we'll pay you $10 million a year to coach our team.
Hold
No.
on. The Dion coaching, right? Dion's success is not based off his X's and O's.
Good.
Dion's
You
success
think-
is based
you
off
think
recruiting.
Jerry cares? You think
He's out here
Jerry
recruiting.
cares?
I think it's
He's-
a recruiting thing. I think
Yeah.
you're
It
right,
is.
man.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I'm with Shell
agree.
on this.
He's not like, I mean, yeah, it's finding talent for sure. But you don't think that his end goal is to coach in the NFL?
No, I think his end goal
No.
is to make money, get his sons to the NFL, yes, but for him himself to make money. And he can do that in college. You can be a college like Nick Saban could be in the NFL, but what's the point? You get fired after 3 years
He went to the
Or-
NFL.
for sure, and then he
All
ran
these
back
guys-
very
All
quickly.
these guys went to the NFL.
Yeah, and then realized his mistake and ran back to college very quickly, and now he gets to leave Alabama whenever he wants, right, and get paid millions and millions of
I
dollars.
just think Jerry's gonna hire Dion to coach the team.
No,
I mean,
I
I would,
don't-
I would absolutely
I know
love it.
Jerry.
I
I know
would
Jerry
love
gets
it.
like lumped into this shit as like, oh, he's the guy that's going to do this crazy thing. Like, I don't think so. Like, that's a Super
Okay.
Bowl roster, and he's not going to take a flyer on Deion Sanders. Like, it's
I
not
would
going to
love it.
happen.
A Super Bowl roster?
Webby, you've convinced
Yeah.
me. Let's do it.
Is it not?
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Webby's
Super
come
Bowl
on.
defense.
You got to remember, Webby is an Eagles fan, so he has to hate on the Cowboys.
We're
by
all in
default.
the NFC and all 2-0, and so are the Cowboys. Would you rate the Cowboys ahead of your 2-0 team right now?
Yeah.
Shelly,
Ahead of
you
my
wouldn't.
team? No, of course
No.
not.
No, not ahead
Because
of
the Niners beat
but-
them in the playoffs the last 2 years in a row.
I would have put them ahead of my team
Yeah,
You put them ahead of
100%.
the Saints.
pretty
question.
confidently.
No question. I think there's
Especially
a big
with-
3 in the NFC and then a gigantic gap. And then there's everybody.
I would put them on the same level as the Eagles. I think they're
Yeah.
just as good as the Eagles.
The Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're really good. Wait, we got a question for you. Is it fair to say that you're the resident college football expert here?
I don't know about expert, but I probably watch more college football than you guys.
Definitely more than
Colorado,
me.
19 Colorado going
Yeah.
to number 10 Oregon this weekend.
No, Simon. Look at next week. Look at the
Yeah,
look
it's
at
USC. But wait, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I want
we got to beat Bo Nix.
I want a prediction for it's in Oregon, I believe.
It's in Oregon, yeah.
And I also want to say that the number that I'm looking at has Oregon as 21-point favorites.
Yeah.
No love for Prime.
Well, they also need Travis Hunter, man.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
that's
Losing
not-
Hunter,
that was a big
that's
one.
the only problem with this. Like, it would have been nice to get a cupcake ahead of USC. It's like, I know the Pac-12 is like breaking up, but there are a lot of good teams with a lot of good players. Like this kid Penix in Washington. Do you guys know about this kid?
Yeah.
He was playing on
Lighting it up.
Indiana and then had a pretty bad injury like 2 years ago. This guy is fucking for real. Sanders at Colorado is for real. Bo Nix at Oregon is for real. He's been playing college. He's like Robbie Hummel. He's been playing college sports for fucking
Well, hold on.
2
Here-
decades.
Here's a question though. These 2 games coming up, you got Oregon and USC. Does the hype train remain on the other side of these 2 games? Like, are the celebs still showing up to Colorado games if they get
If
blown
they go
out?
0-2,
Yeah,
If they get not even just go 0-2, but they get blown out. Like you just said, 20-point spread, right? Like that. Even if you want to bet on, want to take Colorado plus the points, cool, whatever. But I'm saying you get blown out those 2 games. Are you still getting, is it still, as Mark Jones called it, the BET Awards on the sidelines at their game?
really
that
say
is.
that?
Yeah,
Yes.
no.
Oh,
How
Mark
do you not get
Jones-
fired immediately?
That's
if
full
I
on.
said that, they would launch me into space.
Yo, Mark Jones was on one on
Mark
Saturday.
Jones was
That's-
saying some
Jesus.
out of pocket stuff the entire game. And
That's
it got
fun.
so bad. It got so bad that the color guy couldn't even respond with laughter or anything. He was throwing
Oh,
Hail
what's my guy's
Marys
name?
that were
what's my guy's
falling like
name?
20 yards short.
The front office dude, man, on ESPN. What's his name? The black dude, the bald head guy. He's a front office guy. What's his name? Why am I drawing a blank? And he almost got hired into the NFL as like a front office guy again. I'm drawing a blank. But anyways, during the game, you could tell there were moments Mark Jones was throwing out like some wild shit, and he just kind of like awkward pause because he didn't know what to say.
Certainly
Mark
not
Jones was like,
commenting on that.
there were 2 penalties. No, there were 2 penalties, right? And they just finished doing an interview with Offset, and Mark Jones is like, "Oh, what a coincidence! Those 2 penalties offset."
Oh my god.
And the
Nice.
camera then pans. It's like,
See, this
"Yo,
is
bro,
why you
we
needed
get
like,
it, but like, chill out, man."
This is why you needed a guy like Brian Greasy in the booth with you needed like some like so you needed the white counterpoint of just awkward. Yeah, Mark, absolutely, buddy.
Not getting any other references
Yeah,
at all.
it would have been way better.
Oh, it was so funny, man. And
like,
calling
yeah.
it the BT Awards, but it was so hilarious.
So
But, like-
that's a good question that you raised, Shelley. Is like, does the momentum continue if they get walloped? I think it does. I think that Prime is a big enough personality, and you know what? They got the 60-minute story out already, so he's kind of playing with house money. I think, yeah, if they get blown out, it'll take maybe a shot or 2, but they've seen that Prime equals ratings, so they're going to put these
Well, that's why
Buffalo's
they
games on the air.
Sunglasses this week because he knows,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know,
60 Minutes
Coming
came out before the Oregon game, you know?
Yeah. Sold the sunglasses, had Lil Wayne perform, had Master P out there. Your man's Kyle Lowry was at the game too.
I saw
which
that.
could be
North
Kyle
Philly.
Lowry and Chauncey. Could mean the Dame trade's going down sooner than later. I don't know. Doing the Brian Windhorse. What
NBA conspiracy
Dame-
theories just are too
Dame
far
loves Dame and
sometimes.
Killicam?
You love it, Toads.
It's just way too
What does it
far.
Always.
mean?
It's always churning. The NBA hot stove is always on, so watch it.
Listen, at least I'm not like
So
the
funny.
Raptors fans that are like, do you see the rumors? They're saying there's another Eastern Conference team that could be in on Dame. It's got to be Masai, right? It's got to be Masai. It's like, guys,
No, as soon
Settle
as they
down.
didn't do that Durant deal a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
as soon as that trigger wasn't pulled, I think that like the Raptors being in on any of these conversations about like big name players kind of went out the window.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I take it back. I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about the Raptors because it just was going to make me depressed. But in less depressing Toronto sports news, can we talk about your man's Mike Babcock?
Oh, I thought we were going to go Jays, but yeah, Mike Babcock.
Sure,
oh
we
my
can talk
God.
Jays. Which way do you want to go?
No,
you
no,
want
no,
to
it's
go
up to
Jays? You want to
you.
go Mike Babcock? What do we want to go here?
I want to know what's on your camera roll right now. I want you to bring up the last 5 pictures on your camera roll. I will too. I
This
bet
is-
they're my daughter.
I
This is-
choose not to
we're
do
actually
this.
Or
doing
memes.
this? Hold
Or
on, let me see
memes.
here.
Mine is
I think-
all dogs. Pictures of my
Dogs.
dogs. And also
Mine's going to be screenshots.
mine's also
Yeah,
the FIBA
screenshot.
men's world rankings with Latvia circled at coming up to number 8.
Oh, Jesus.
Incredible. I've got a picture of frozen peas that I
Nice.
sent my wife from the grocery store to make sure they were the right ones.
Sick.
What? Are there different kinds of frozen peas?
Yeah, there's a
I think
couple.
it's pretty universal.
No, man. There's like summer sweet peas.
Yeah, yeah.
And like
Well, and Webby, I
that's-
get it because you don't want to come back with the wrong ones. That's just
because
tough.
Simon, do you know how many times do you know why I send the pictures?
Because it's
I've
happened
come
before.
on multiple times. I'm on like
100%.
required to send the pictures.
100%.
You can't
That's
mess that
funny.
up, Webby. You can't mess it. Yeah, mine's boring. Mine's all screenshots.
Yeah,
Oh,
mine's
actually,
just
I got
baby
a-
and dogs.
Yeah, I
Baby
got to
dog,
scroll
yeah.
back.
My
to get to
daughter was there
something more
too.
Interesting.
My daughter and frozen peas.
This Mike Babcock story is so interesting to me on so many levels because one, you have the broken hockey culture, which will just go on and on and on. Because I'll preface this by saying I am a Leafs fan and not a hockey fan, but hockey culture is always the weirdest shit to me because I just don't get it at all. But you have that side of it, the hockey culture side. And then I think you have the interesting discussion of the media where you have like Biz and company just completely changing the rules of what we view as journalism and media and all that stuff. Which way do you want to go first?
So a bit about that hockey culture. Like I know that we have a long history, especially in this country, of the ramifications negative of hockey culture, right?
Mhm.
And like it seems, especially over the last 5-10 years, we've really gotten these stories that have kind of blown the lid off this like predatory, like weird, gross culture. But I'm starting to find, and this story is kind of a hinge point on this, is like I feel that hockey culture is trying to fix itself. I feel that like real steps by players are starting to be taken, right? Whereas in the past, this Babcock shit happened all the time and nobody really spoke out because of that hockey culture. And the thing with your boy Alou and what happened with the
Bill
coach that
Peters.
was here in Calgary,
Bill Peters.
Bill Peters, that's something that a player back in the day immersed in the hockey culture wouldn't necessarily speak out about. And I know it's baby steps and it's not a ton, but it's almost good to see that the players are putting stuff that doesn't seem right to them out into the media, right? I know it's not going to fix itself. It's not a Band-Aid. Hockey culture has way bigger steps to take to make sure that it's not gross and negative. But I think that these are good first small steps that players are taking accountability for and putting out there.
I think like I wish it was a player on Columbus that said this and not Biz.
But
And
it was
shout
the
out to
player
Biz,
who went
shout out to
the-
those guys. They did a great, like, good for them. I'm all in on what they just did. And like, I get that they're trying to change it, but I think you nailed it, Webby. Like, this is the first steps of like those guys saying like, hey, look, guys, don't fucking stand up for this bullshit. This is stupid. Like the Leafs, I'm sure have a million stories. Like those guys were all like 21, 20, like somebody brought this up on Twitter. I forget who it was, but like jogged my memory of, remember when Babs had to like go travel to Arizona to go like talk to Matthews during his summer when they were negotiating his first big contract? Because there was like kind of some like weird beef there that like was kind of unspoken. And the theory was that he had to go there and clear the air because Matthews was kind of thinking of leaving because he was like, fuck this guy. If he's here, I don't want to be here. And that seemed like he had to go over there and kind of mend that fence. And it's like, okay, Matthews, the mic's on you every day. Like, can you speak on this even a little bit? So, yeah, I wish more actual players currently playing in the NHL would say more of this stuff. Guys were coming out like as recently as like, we're taping this on Tuesday, as recently as Monday, coming out like defending Babs. Like, no, I was just trying to get to know us. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, that's weird.
So
like,
there's weird ways that this story's come out, because it's like people are like, oh, well, he just asked to see their phones. And I feel like a lot of the news outlets and just other pods or wherever talking about it, I've heard the conversation come up, but they're not going the distance in terms of what Babcock was actually doing, right? And yes, he's asking to see their phones. He's asking to scroll through their photos. But what he's really trying to do is see, like, you know, what's going on in the camera roll, right? Like, see if there's partying, see if you're out, see if there's girls, see like what's on your camera roll, not to see your family photos, right? Like, there's other ways that you could go about it. If you were trying to have some show and tell, hey, everybody send in your family photos from your family barbecue at the cottage. Like, you could do that if that's what you were really trying to do. My man's was trying to see, you know, what's the Drake line? She go see some shit she controlling to the left, right? Like some Timmy back me up here. We know what Babcock was trying to do, right?
Yeah. Even before the request for pictures, just the fact that you have a superior, somebody who is ostensibly your boss, asking for access to your phone, that's where it comes down. Like, that's
hockey culture, man. Hockey culture is so fucked up, where like you have these weird things that happen where people who are in power abuse their power until, well, I mean, forever, until like they're stopped, until Babcock loses his job. But hockey, and I think a lot of sports culture, even if you dig into like, you know, hazing and stuff like that, all these things keep going on because that's just what the culture enables. And Babcock has been enabled to do this because no one speaks out on it. And it only really comes out now because you have someone like Paul Bissonnette spitting chiclets, where they have the power that they don't need the NHL. Right? Like, they're doing all of this. Their podcast, the success of what they do is way outside of the NHL because they're in with the players. So they don't need, you know, to play nice with Gary Bettman or to play nice with, you know, the heads of each team. So if you think about it, the mainstream media people, most of their sources are either agents or front office people. So when the story first came out, if you remember, there was a rush from a lot of mainstream media people to be like, well, here's what the Blue Jackets said. Oh, it's not a big deal. You're just looking at family photos. And they're kind of trying to squash it. Why? Because they're protecting their sources who are part of the team, right? Who are in the front office. That part of it is so interesting to me because this doesn't get out. Like, who is the other person? If it's not someone on Spittin' Chicklets, who's the other person that's big enough that can come out here with a bombshell story like that and just put it on their podcast? Because I'm going to tell you, we know enough people in the industry that know a lot of information that they could come out and say that they just don't.
Well, there's another giant NHL podcast that's out there that will remain nameless for certain reasons that definitely could put out a story like this and have it be huge hockey news. But the problem is that this network isn't about sports journalism.
Hold on. I'm gonna stop you. The reason I'm gonna stop you though is because this story I think is a little different, right? This story is directly a thing where a player is messaging a friend in Paul Bissonnette, right? To say like, yo, have you heard about blah, 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 blah? It's not necessarily that he's messaging him to make a story about it. This was just a conversation.
Right.
The person that, like, most of the mainstream hockey people are not friends with the players.
Right.
You're not going to be having the casual conversation with a player where the player's like, hey, this is happening. Can you do a story on this? That's not really how this went. If you just think of the way that you see athletes go on Spittin' Chicklets, it's a way different vibe than you see them in any other forum, right? And I think that what happens here is that with Biz, he can come out and say that because he's not trying to get anywhere else. Like, he's fine. He's cashing mega checks with Spit and Chicklets. He's cashing checks with TNT. Like, he doesn't need, there's nothing else that he needs from anyone else in the NHL. So he has free reign to kind of blow up a story like this if he wants to, right? And pretty much dared anyone to basically counter him at the same time, right? But Babcock, the thing that I find most interesting about this is that Babcock, like most other sports, it's the same coaches getting recycled over and over.
That's the big thing. And that's why that hockey culture permeates, right? Because these guys keep getting hired back.
My guy was also just waiting for his check to clear, his last checks to clear with the Leafs, right? Before he took another job. It's not like he wasn't going to get another job if this job didn't come up. So, like, that's the other point here, right? Like, you mentioned Bill Peters. Bill Peters just got hired to coach kids.
Yeah.
Kids. How does that happen? Right?
Fuck.
Like, so there's so many like different things that go on that I'm just like, I don't understand. I need hockey games to start. I need the Leafs to like play some games so I can focus on that as opposed to like all the other dumbass hockey shit.
You're not watching like rookie camp or whatever in Penticton?
The blue
France?
scrimmage?
Are the France getting ready to take
Go
the
France,
ice?
man. The Leon Center is going to be buzzing.
Do they have like a summer league like the NBA or no?
Yeah, bro, they were in Penticton. The Canucks, the Jets, the Flames, the Oilers, rookie camp out in Penticton, BC. One of the most beautiful places you will ever go in your life.
Is that like the equivalent of Vegas?
Nah, a little slower than Vegas, but similar terrain, really. Nice wineries in Penticton. Good soil there.
Okay.
Good soil.
Yo, Webby, what the fuck? Have you?
I got married. I got married in Penticton.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be there next week.
Yeah, you know,
What is going
Wow.
on?
Bro, Penticton, hotspot.
Penticton's lit. Yo, I got.
Holy shit.
I went out and got hammed one night with my wife's cousins. Like when I was there, it was awesome.
Yo, what is going on here?
Sick.
Yeah.
Are we excited for the hockey season?
I mean, sure.
Talk to me in February.
Is it Leafs Sens first night? I want to see Sandy on the ice.
Oh, baby. You guys aren't ready for what's coming.
I wasn't
You guys
sure.
aren't ready.
You tweeted about this Jake Sanderson kid and him getting a big deal, and I wasn't sure if you were being sarcastic or not.
It was extremely obviously excitement. Well, I mean, I don't know how you could read it as anything else.
I mean, anytime you can give a hockey player an 8-year deal, you got to do it.
I know you don't know what a good defenseman looks like, but when you sign one for an 8-year team-friendly deal, it's actually really good news for your hockey team. But I know you enjoy your John Klingberg and his fucking cement feet and him just getting walked by third liners. You enjoy it, okay? We'll take our 20-year-old. We're all good over here.
Okay.
I've heard.
You guys will
John
find out.
Klingberg.
You guys will find out, man. It's gonna be great. I'm excited.
I never heard of Jake Sanderson before you tweeted about him.
It's okay.
But-
5th overall pick. No big deal.
Congrats.
Before we get hyped up about the Leafs season, we got the Jays season winding down here. Things are a little interesting.
What's the move? What's the
We're gonna
vibe?
go from
Choke?
swept
Fittingly?
What's the vibe?
sweeping
I did.
to
What's the
swept.
vibe?
Like, I'd say, listen, I've steadily said they're going to make the playoffs, right? Like the wild panic one way or the next. All you have to do is look ahead at the sked and see that Texas and the Mariners are going to play each other a lot of times down the stretch, meaning unless the Jays just implode, you're going to make the playoffs by default. And now here we are.
What's it like?
I don't know.
dragging
Have you
this
been
fan
riding the?
base?
Have you guys been riding the wave, or have you been able to like maintain a level head, which I know is not a Toronto thing to do at all? We're talking about sports. Simon, how have you been, my dude?
I mean, I just am so fascinated. Like the thing that I'm going to remember about the season, regardless, like, and it's even funnier if they do make the playoffs, is just like how much the fan base hates the team. They absolutely hate
They're
the team.
horrible to watch.
No one enjoys watching them. Like they're just ragging on their best players all the time. The fan base is just, they don't know what to cheer for. It's wild. It's crazy to watch.
It's good to watch this fan base. Like, acting like that, be dragged with their fingernails clutching on the floor towards the playoffs.
Because I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna make the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I do too. Yeah.
Not only do I think they're going to make the playoffs, wouldn't it be so fitting for a Toronto sports team that is getting zero hype to like miraculously make the World Series? And I was saying this to Timmy at work the other day. I'm like, this is baseball. It never works
Phillies
out
did
the
it
way
last year.
the Phillies, the fucking like that Red Sox team with like Pierce winning the World Series MVP that gets all the way to the end. That Nationals team a few years back, like
Just get hot,
weird
baby.
shit happens in baseball, and like we're literally Vladdy getting hot for 3 weeks away from this team being like a legitimate World Series team, which is hilarious to think about. And I will sit there with a ton of regret going, I did not enjoy this season and I should have rode the wave. And I'm just can't even enjoy like a run like this. But let's be honest, they're going to play the Rays and get bounced. So
No, but the thing that I know we've even talked about on this pod is you get in, you have a really, really good pitching staff.
Really
right? Your
good.
pitching staff is so good that you survived your ace, quote unquote, basically just quitting on the team.
Oh,
You've
no.
survived that,
Yikes.
right? And still doesn't matter. You still got horses out there that are putting in work. So if you get into the playoffs, starting pitching is the most important thing. And guess what? You got that. The one thing I will say that I'll be very interested to see what happens. Think of the Jays lineup, right? Biggio somehow has been playing really nice down the stretch. Cool. I've been firmly on the position that I cannot take this team seriously as long as Brandon Belt is in the middle of their order. Okay.
yeah,
Is he still
So-
playing?
He's hurt. He's hurt right now.
Okay.
But think about this, okay? You're going to have coming down the stretch here or even into the playoffs. Who's going to play second base? Who's going to play left field? I ask these questions because you got Varsho, who you got for defensive reasons. Does he play in left field? You have Snyder, who's come up and just been arguably your best hitter for the whole time. that he's
Arguably
been
the
up.
best hitter in baseball since he's been up.
Looks like the guy
So
from
you-
Sicario.
So, right? So you figure he's got to be in the lineup. I mentioned Biggio already, who's been one of your hottest hitters the last few weeks, and he still got two-hit Witt, who's struggling now, but he's a kind of vet that you would normally start in the playoffs.
All-star.
So who's the odd person out
All-star,
here? Listen,
Well,
Jay's
here's the
got a
nice
lot
thing,
of
Shelly.
all-stars, right?
Here's the
I
nice
didn't
thing,
even mention
Shelly.
all-star Espinal. Right?
Espinal.
Santiago.
All-star.
Shelly, here's the nice thing. If you're a Jays fan
Kirk
with all
also
these
an
questions,
All-star.
All-Star,
Tough,
True.
tough.
you've got a great managerial mind in that dugout for the
Wow.
Jays to answer these questions, these burning questions as we head towards the postseason. So I think you're in good hands.
What do the computers say, right? What are the computers going to spit back out here? Anyone? No?
Nothing.
I mean,
There's no answer. There's no answer to the test. It's a flawed team, but they're going to win the World Series. Watch.
they're gonna win
Wow.
the World Series.
There's going to be
Okay.
a championship parade that no one's going to show up to. It's just going to be a bus driving through downtown Toronto with no one there when they win the World Series because everybody
Get out of the
hates their
way!
guts.
What? You're in the crosswalk.
The thing, do you know what was funny though? The people that were mad that when they got swept by Texas, and it was like the lowest attended games this season, and people were like, "Where are all the fans? Where are all the fans?" And it's like, okay, well, just because they made up this wild card thing doesn't mean that the team is actually that good. For one, two. Men's are out here trying to buy groceries. I don't know if anyone else has been paying attention to what's going on in the world here, but going to
Don't
the
have a lot
Jays
of-
game on like a Tuesday night that's going to cost you
Disposable
a whole lot of money.
Tuesday night.
Yeah.
You might want to save that for the weekend. You might want to save that for the Yankees. You might want to save that for another time. But there's this whole thing where people were going at the fans like, where are the fans? It's the biggest series of the year. And it's like, is it? It's the biggest series before the next biggest series of the year,
Correct.
isn't it? Because they got swept and they're still in it. So what the fuck are we talking about here? That was a whole
Really-
narrative for a couple of days that I was like, that's kind of fucked up. What do we
Also,
do?
it was like the first week at school, kids were back at school and stuff. I'm like, that
Exactly.
shit matters. I feel like every year around this time, the attendance kind of dips and it kind of looks empty, regardless of how good they are. It's like, okay, like it's like that 2015 year and that like crazy 4-month stretch after all the trades, like really just fucked with people's minds that like, oh, it's got to be this hype or else
All
it's
the time.
disappointing. And it's
Whereas
like, that was like a one-off.
Yeah, nothing
That's not
can match
normal. Like, that was just an out of nowhere buy job. And next thing you know, they're just the hottest team in baseball. And it was just riding this super fun wave.
feel like
That's
I did
not
a lap.
that's not the world we're living in now.
I feel like I did a lap around the office when they announced that they traded for Tulo.
What a fun
Like,
day.
I was just like, what are we doing here? We got David Price. Like, that's not a thing that, like, to your point, Tones, you can't, we're trying to hold it to those standards when, like, that was legit. What a time to be alive. Like, that was just, a whole different wave. We had Kevin Durant at their games in Blue Jays jerseys, right? And us believing that maybe Kevin Durant's coming to the Raptors. Like, we were on a different, stratosphere during those times.
I'm pretty sure Drew Hutchinson was our opening day starter that season. We went from that to like 3 months later, like getting
David
all these
Bright
superstars and being like fucking amazing. Like, a little different.
When Josh Donaldson tweeted, "It's getting hot up in the 6th," that a tweet never gave me goosebumps more. It was crazy.
Oh, it was crazy times, man. Drake was taking fines for recruiting Kevin Durant to come to Toronto. Like, that was incredible. Oh, man.
I remember
Wasn't that an all-star? Wasn't the all-star game here too? The NBA all-star game, wasn't it that year? Toronto was on fire that
When
stretch.
was the all-star game? 2016, I think.
2016.
Yeah, there was like a
2016 was
couple
the
year
All-Star
stretch there that like just
Sting
Toronto
was
was
the
like the
halftime
center
performer.
of the sports world, man. It was wild.
What
I
a
was
time.
prompting late West. the
Late
night they traded
West.
for Tulo.
Oh,
Pacific for an hour.
It was a late night for the kid.
yikes.
Just buy me
Yikes.
2 pitchers at the Dodger. I'll be there before it closes.
The Dodger, yes. The Dodger. Well played, Webby. Well played. One last thing I want to ask you guys about, a little off the board here, but it was announced that Winning Time is canceled.
How
And
am I
that
ever
was a
going to
show.
find out what happens? The fuck?
Now, that was a show we were discussing a little bit here and there on the pod. And I didn't realize that it was in that dire strait. But I did say that I saw Jeff Pearlman was doing Jeff Pearlman's a guy who wrote the book that Winning Time's based off of. But he was doing a media tour to start this season. And he was kind of saying, hey, we need people to support it. We need people to support it. I didn't realize the show was in that dire straits. And now here we are, where it's canceled after the Lakers lose to the Celtics in the 84 finals. Like, how fucked is that you're going to have a show called Winning Time
It's amazing.
about the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, and the show ends after they lose to the Celtics in 84, like halfway through the actual story you're trying to tell. This is sad. This is like really sad and pathetic. Am I like overselling that? Because like I'm looking at it from the whole like narrative of, look at where the industry is. We can't even finish this story that's right in front of us. That's pretty good. That's somewhat entertaining. That's an HBO great job. Or is it just like, whatever, it wasn't that good of a show anyways? What do you guys think?
I mean, I thought it was really fun. Like I definitely never thought the show was like some groundbreaking piece of art or whatever that like college classes will be taught on in the future. You know what I mean? But I thought it was like really fun. The big thing that I noticed is like, I would talk to sports fans and they would watch it. I would talk to anyone who wasn't a sports fan, be like, "You watching Winning Time?" And like 99% of the time it was, "What is that? Haven't seen it, haven't heard of it." And that's just, I think, probably where it came down to, right? Like people who were into sports were going to check it out, and people who were not had zero interest in watching a dramatized version of basketball, I don't think.
Which is interesting because I thought the show would be like, if someone who wasn't like a diehard sports fan just sat down and watched it, I thought they would be into
100%.
because there's so much other shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
My wife doesn't care about sports in any capacity and is in on that show for sure.
Yeah.
It's just the thing that bugs me about this show getting canceled and my disappointment is like how there's just no, I think I mentioned it on the pod before, like those like old MTV movies that we all used to love that were like really small budget and like just got played on cable over and over. Like there's no like chance for like a cult classic anymore. It's all just about big numbers and shit. And like, yeah, so what if Winning Time, like to Simon's point, like if Winning Time, my mom wasn't watching Winning Time, who cares? Like it was a good show. It had great actors. It was pretty good writing. Like it was fun. It was enjoyable. Like if you're going to sign off on a show like that, you got to know what you're buying here and just say, okay, you guys have 4 seasons to tell this full story. Go. You can't just cancel it halfway through and just be like, oh, well, like, let's see how they finish it. Right. So I don't know. To me, that was kind of frustrating because I think the trajectory was going on. I think it would have been one of those shows that ended that like people in a few years could have been like, hey, oh, you never watched Winning Time? You should check it out. And then they go back and like binge watch the whole thing. And they're like, oh man, where was this? Like, this was kind of fun. So I don't know. That's the part that's disappointing to me. I hope it gets picked up. I don't know if that happens with HBO shows, but I don't know if another network could just scoop it and like keep it going.
Like Netflix or something. Yeah.
I think
it's a great Netflix show. It's a great Netflix show.
I think this show was done dirty by the strike.
Right.
I think that if there wasn't an actor and a writer's strike going on right now, then this might have gotten picked up for another season, another 2 seasons. But because of all the uncertainty, it's like, why would you throw in a big piece of your capital? Whereas, like even HBO and Netflix, their business model isn't going so hot right now. And so coming up with cash to put into a series like Winning Time, which doesn't look cheap, it's got big names in it.
Wow.
It's backed by Adam McKay. So it's not nothing to make this show. And so I just think it got done dirty with the time that it was on. Who knows if another show, not Winning Time, was on while all of this was happening, what we wouldn't have gotten. What happens if Euphoria season 1 happens when the writer's strike is happening? Do we even get a season 2,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you afford Zendaya still, right?
Yeah.
But this also goes into the whole thing. And we touched on this before, the whole Discovery Warner Brothers buying HBO and the impact that has, right? And this is one of those conversations where we relate to in a kind of a different way, but the sense that you have Discovery coming in, they buy HBO, they say, look how much this show costs, Winning Time, and how much the spinoff of 90 Day Fiance costs.
Right.
And I could make like 3 different spinoffs of 90 Day Fiance for the cost of 1 season of Winning Time. And you just have a suit that's making that decision. And that part makes me sad as someone who like thinks they care about creativity or wants to be creative or wants to like, you know what I mean? And that part is like almost depressing when you think of it that way. And listen, I'll flick on 90 Day Fiance, give it like 10 minutes.
Yeah, that show's hot. That show's hot.
No. It's not a diss, but I'm saying there should be room for both. It can't just be
for sure.
all.
Listen, you hope that suit that you're talking about that's making these decisions realizes that the best brand that this now mega media corporation has is like the authenticity of HBO shows. Part of your brand is how good HBO is at making these hour-long shows, like why would you buy into HBO if you're not going to get that? So hopefully your suit there that's making the decision still says, you know what, we need a banger. We need a Succession. We need something to keep the HBO brand alive, to keep this mega crazy media corporation running.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's depressing, but at the same time, I hope it doesn't stop the attempts being made from HBO, because at least like that.
It was Winning Time is Winning Time.
There's nothing on TV that looks like Winning Time.
Yeah,
right? Like the pacing of the show, the way that it's done is different, right? So you hope the swings still keep coming. I don't know what's next down the pipeline in the HBO world or even in the TV world, but that's why we got sports to keep us happy in the meantime, between time. I don't know, fellas. I'm happy. I'm happy with sports right now.
We better be happy in sports, because we're not going to be getting tons of TV shows here for the next like year and a half, man. This strike's got to end. Otherwise, it's going to be all sports all the time. That and like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is going to come back.
Yeah, a lot of reality shows and game shows.
Which is great for Bravo heads. Like,
hey, the Bravo cinematic universe expands.
Yo, BD, we gotta get BD.
I did watch like 3 more episodes of Real Housewives of New York the other day. I did. I hadn't watched in a while since we last talked about it. The other day I was looking around. I'm like, yo, I need something to watch right now. I'm like, sure, I'm in. What's my girl's name again?
Bryn,
yes. Webby. I gotta say, you were definitely.
You were a little lacking at the beginning. You were like,
listen. I was like, Bryn, yeah.
You got to see it in motion. That's what Babcock never figured out.
Damn.
Still don't do it. You need the video.
We cannot put that part in.
You can keep that in.